In the opening scene of the movie, Captain Brody Torrance is in Singapore. He is on the phone with his daughter Daniela, informing her that he will soon be returning to Honolulu in order to spend time with her during the holidays. Brody, a pilot who had previously served with the RAF, is currently at the controls of Flight 119 for Trailblazer Airlines. When he arrives to meet his co-pilot, Samuel Dell tells Brody that they will be flying through a storm. Brody receives word from Bonnie, the chief flight attendant, that he is required to meet with Officer Shellback. Brody is given the information by the officer that they are transporting a murderer and former member of the French Foreign Legion, named Louis Gaspard. As the plane gets ready to take off, we get a glimpse of the other passengers, including some young people who are influential on social media and a stuffy businessman. During the flight, Brody and Dell engage in conversation, during which Brody reveals to Dell that he lost his wife many years ago. During their flight over the West Philippine Sea, the passengers on board the plane experience intense turbulence as they fly through the storm. As the storm becomes even more severe, the plane sustains damage and Brody sustains a head injury as a result of the commotion that ensues. Shellback, the flight attendant, and another passenger, the stewardess, both pass away after being thrown around violently as the aircraft begins to descend. Brody and Dell must maintain control of the situation and the absence of communications and radar in order to achieve a more stable equilibrium. When they realized how extensive the damage was, they were forced to perform an emergency landing. The pilots locate an island and perform a difficult landing there. After everything has been brought under control, Brody instructs the passengers to exit the aircraft. Together with Dell, he figures out that they are on the island of Holo. At the headquarters of Trailblazers in New York City, the board of directors is called into a meeting with their crisis manager, Scarsdale, to discuss the search for the missing aircraft and its passengers. Due to Lewis's history of violence, Brody makes every effort to keep him isolated from the other passengers and under close supervision. Together with Dell and Bonnie, Brody works to maintain the passengers' composure. While searching for a way to contact emergency services, Brody is informed by Dell that Holo is run by violent separatists, which means that the longer they remain there, the greater the risk that they will put everyone in danger. After hearing about the plane's crash landing, the rebels, led by Dado Junmer, hope to acquire valuable information from the passengers. In the meantime, Brody follows Lewis into the woods in an effort to locate a means by which they can reach out for assistance. Back in New York City, Scarsdale and the board go over Brody's history file, which includes a video of an incident in which Brody put a violent passenger in a chokehold until the man passed out. The incident occurred after the passenger punched Brody when Brody was trying to defuse an argument between the two. Since Scarsdale is aware of the danger that exists on the island, they have devised a plan to send a private military team to the island in order to save everyone. Once the plane has been located, Daniela receives the news from her aunt in Honolulu that the plane that her father was piloting has crashed. Brody and Lewis make it to a tower, where Brody is able to make contact with a representative from Trailblazers. At first, the agent does not believe him because she claims that the company has been receiving a large number of hoax calls about the missing flight. In addition to this, Brody is successful in calling Daniela before he is ambushed by a rebel. Brody engages the man in combat up until the point where he is able to kill him. After conducting further investigations into the structure, Brody and Lewis discovered that the insurgents had used the area as a place to torture and videotape their victims in order to extract ransom payments from them. Both of them make a mad dash back to the plane only to discover that Junmer and his henchmen have already arrived there. A woman from Korea makes an attempt to escape, but one of the rebels shoots her in the back. Her husband was then beheaded in a particularly gruesome manner. While Brody and Lewis remained hidden, the rebels proceeded to kidnap the rest of the people. After the insurgents have left, the two incapacitate the last remaining insurgent and find out that Junmer is leading everyone to a nearby village. Brody and Lewis have made the decision to chase after them and save everyone. While the two are on their way to the village, Junmer begins pressuring the hostages to give their names and the countries in which they were born for the ransom video. The military team makes it to the island, but they discover nobody near the plane when they get there. All they find are the bodies of Shellback and the stewardess, along with a message from Brody. Brody and Lewis are successful in making it to the village, where they slaughter additional rebels before searching for and rescuing the hostages. Everyone boards a bus and Brody remains on the platform to ensure that they are able to disembark safely. Junmer and his men beat him and were about to execute him when the military team arrived and began firing on the rebels. When the battle is over, Junmer discovers that his brother is one of the deceased, which makes his fight against the other people a more personal one. Everyone makes it back to the airport in time to board the plane. The Trailblazers board debates whether or not to let Brody fly the plane, despite the fact that it is severely damaged and poses a risk of death to everyone on board. After joining the military men in their fight against the rebels, Lewis makes the decision to stay on the island because he sees no possibility of returning home and because he discovered a bag containing ransom money. Brody and Dell make an effort to get the plane moving after the majority of the rebels have been eliminated. Junmer makes an effort to fire an RPG at the plane, but Brody lifts the plane high enough in the air that he is able to kill Junmer by crashing the plane's wheels into him. After that, Brody intends to land the aircraft at an adjacent airstrip in Seassy, using the quantity of fuel that is still available. Brody is finally able to safely land after experiencing some turbulence, which causes everyone at HQ to cheer. Brody takes a seat as the other passengers are settling in, and he begins dialing Daniela's number to let her know that he will soon be returning home.